Hello and welcome back to the One Radio Gamescast. As always, I am your host Ryan, and I'm joined today by my lovely cohort of co-hosts, Brett.
Hello.
Alex. Oh, poor Alex has muted himself.
No! Okay, wait.
There we go.
Well, the joke was ruined. I was in Carl Weezer's voice.
Oh, classic.
I'm bringing it back, baby.
And Wyatt.
Classic. I've heard of chewing the scenery before, but I think for the first time the scenery is trying to chew me.
Look, we've successfully... The sickness has been expunged. We're back to our normal holiday now vibes. Enjoying
we have
some
a
nice...
sickness of a different kind.
We have whatever this
here.
Discord background is. It kind of scares me.
Behind us.
It's all consuming.
With that, it's time to get our Christmas episode started. Our holiday episode. We're doing nothing holiday related aside from the game. Everything else is just all the news that we have missed out on because there's a whole lot that happened in the last 3 weeks and we just didn't want to talk about any of it at the time. And now we got to talk about it because a lot happened. And some of it is pretty interesting. So, some cool stuff that we're going to go through. Yeah. But first, it's time for our Christmas vibes game, our holiday Saint Nick coming to deliver presents. And what I want from each of you is for you to describe to me your perfect good old Saint Nick present game. This is Jeff Keighley's coming in on his sleigh, delivering it straight to your door. What is your perfect Christmas present game?
Is this one
Something
that exists?
That we want?
Something you want. What is a game from a studio? Make it a game that could be made in some universe, right? Like, we're not just tossing everything in the bucket. It's like, okay, I want Uncharted 5 or something, right? We're saying something that is feasible to be made at some point, but probably not in the works right now, right?
I mean, that sounds like Uncharted 5, though.
Well, if it's for you, then you can say Uncharted 5.
Okay.
All right.
Then that's fine. No, I'm just.
You know what I'm gonna say?
You get to walk around and interact.
So you guys have an
with
example. I'm gonna go first here. I want Armored Core. I want a new Armored Core game from Software. I've been playing Gundam Breaker 3, and all I can think about is how much I want more mech games. And a From Software mech game that's new, perfect.
Ryan, you can either want Elden Ring or you can want Armored Core. You can't have both.
I would take Armored Core.
Out.
Given those two options, I would take Armored Core, unfortunately, for Elden Ring.
Oh, really?
But that's because I really like mechs.
I have a compromise for you.
That's a hot, spicy take.
Mechs in Elden Ring. There's now mechs in Elden Ring. Okay.
Let's go.
There will be a mod for that.
Or whatever his name is can be like a rideable mech or something.
Oh, yes.
You can open up the lid and hop inside.
Yep. All right. Who wants to go next? Well, someone has to.
I will. I was raising my hand.
Oh.
It wasn't available.
Well, it was cutting off the screen because Discord.
Yeah.
We can't... See, Discord's... The reason we don't normally use these Discord backgrounds is because they don't work.
I'm currently being digested.
We can't, do hand motions or anything, so...
No.
Alright. I'm gonna do a callback to one of our previous episodes and say, if we were to ever make form a studio, I want that Transformers game.
You want it.
That's the biggest pipe dream of all, truly.
Yeah. We went way too hard.
What studio would you have make that? Were it to be a studio
would
that
I
exists
have make
currently?
that? One of the Square Enix people.
I feel like that could be a Platinum game pretty easily.
I was thinking because
totally,
I mean Platinum did a Transformers game, which I actually played.
It's pretty good.
It was free, and it was pretty good. It was a lot of fun.
You can't buy that game anymore, to my knowledge.
No.
It got taken off of store shelves because of licensing. It might be back now, but for a while it was off of store shelves.
So what you're saying is, I was thinking, I think I still left it on my PS4. So my PS4 is actually quite valuable because it's still
maybe it might still be free. You can still buy it on Amazon, though it is expensive. It's $40.
I want a roaming battle Transformers game where you can literally beat the pieces off of each other.
Yeah.
Is that too much?
That is also kind of Gundam Breaker.
It is. It is. Whether you'd like to believe it or not, it is true.
All right. Great game, Alex. Wyatt, what have you got?
I had one, and then during our discussion about Transformers, I completely forgot what it was.
Oh,
good job.
Fred, you got something?
I want to preface this episode real quick, if you don't mind, Brett. I have been completely just messed up in in the past like week or so. So if I'm a little incoherent this entire episode, I apologize. I've been It's been a time. Anyway, Brett, I apologize. Continue.
And some viewers might not notice anything different.
Oh, the only apology we need is that you aren't drinking out of a mason jar. That's good enough
This
for
is
me.
true.
But you have no idea what I'm drinking.
I do not care.
You know what? I'm currently playing the final one for me to play in the series, and I really they got to make a new Wild Arms game because nothing scratches that itch of me being able to be a cowboy and then jump into a giant robot and start beating people up. What you can't do that in anything that's like being made now, and that kind of gameplay.
Yeah.
They have like so many cool battle systems that just haven't been able to be iterated on because they stopped on the PS2.
Yep.
We got a new Star Ocean coming. We got all these other franchises being rumored to coming back. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get my cowboy pipe dream someday.
It's possible.
Come on, Jeff.
It's coming your way.
The Space Cowboy.
All right, Wyatt, you've had your time to think. Stew in that corner.
I want Titanfall 2 with the servers fixed. That's what I want. That's my Christmas wish and hopefully my Christmas miracle.
Please,
I mean, it's a
Sam.
good one at this rate.
That's
Because
yeah.
I was on I was looking at my like EA whatever game browser they call it now. I forget what it's called. And I just saw it there and it's like right on their front page and everything. And I was like, oh. And it just got me really sad. So
I thought we were supposed to ask Santa for things that he could give us.
Wow. Poor
I want
Respawn
to.
right now.
they just
I
want
feel like there
Vince.
has to be people there that want to fix it and just aren't given the leeway to.
I would imagine so.
Vince has been moved, which is not that the rest of Respawn isn't talented, but you
He's
got to
just
have
got
that
figurehead
guy.
power, yeah.
You gotta have
Yeah.
to have that guy at the helm knowing what he's doing, and that was Vince for the longest time.
Titanfall is a part of our DNA. Continues to gene splice.
Yeah.
With that, speaking of gene splicing, let's talk about a company acquisition. So,
Oh my.
Wyatt, you and
Yes.
I had a good time playing Back 4 Blood.
We did.
We did. And now, you know what the reward for that has been?
Oh no.
Back 4 Blood has been acquired by Tencent. Turtle Rock Studios, the studio that made Back 4 Blood, is acquired by Tencent. Right now, this means nothing, but it makes me nervous for the future of the game. Because
Yeah.
Tencent, for people that don't know, Tencent is one of the largest kind of Pan-Asian conglomerate companies that has stake in everything at this point. They own a little bit of like every single game company,
Yeah.
nearly. They have fully bought Turtle Rock, so that is their studio now. Most of the games they deal in have heavy microtransactions and are very monetized. Not necessarily poorly. They're not like the most egregious company, but it does kind of bode that there's going to be a lot of monetization in Back 4 Blood.
I think
Going
the best
forward.
way to describe a lot of Tencent's products is they're very aggressively monetized. Is
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the best way to put it.
Out the
And one
wazoo.
thing that I think both Brett and I were talking about when we were playing Back 4 Blood is there isn't a lot of like
I hadn't played this game.
Ryan, oh my god, here we go.
What happened? Are you okay?
I said Brett instead of Ryan.
Oh.
Okay. One thing we were talking about was there isn't a lot of like cosmetics. There isn't a lot of like microtransactions in the game at the moment, which was something that I was actually very surprised by, especially given Turtle Rock's history. So, that's probably going to change now, given that it's
Yeah.
Tencent. But
Yeah.
oh well. At least I was there for when it wasn't that.
That's distressing news.
Yep. All
Are there
right.
also going to be censorship issues with that too?
I don't think so. I don't recall Tencent ever having any censorship stuff go on. They don't tend to involve themselves with games that would need it necessarily. They're not going for those like usually JRPGs or visual novels that have the censorship. debates happen. So, all right, we got a few other things to talk about. So, hey Wyatt, you remember the game we talked about last year that should have won Game of the Year? Good old Hades. Hades has won a Hugo Award
Really?
for best video game.
I was prepared for like Supergiant's been bought by Tencent.
I was prepared.
Supergiant's been bought by.
I was trying to sandwich the good and the bad, so we're not just having bad news repeatedly.
Because that would have been if Turtle Rock being bought by Tencent was kind of like a punch in the arm, right? Supergiant being bought by Tencent would have been a square just kick right in the crotch. With a steel-toed boot.
That would be rough. It would be rough. They have, however, done something much more positive and won a Hugo Award, which is pretty cool.
Fantastic.
Of a game to represent best video games, Hades is a great pick. So I don't think anyone's going to be upset with that.
At least they know what they're talking about. At least they know what's up. God.
At least they know what's up. Now, sometimes we get news right before the show starts that I just notice as I'm going through the lists of news for the show live. I just saw a headline that I need to mention right now. Square Enix has filed a trademark for a long-forgotten 90s era game named Gex.
No way. No way.
I can't believe
he's back, baby.
I hope this is real.
Oh my god.
Oh my
dude.
God.
With the if we can for a moment just stick on this with how many other things that I think like I don't know if this is like a rumor, if they actually like definitely filed a trademark.
They did file a trademark.
You know,
it is definitely filed.
Which sometimes these just go like nowhere, and they just have it.
They're just keeping the IP for a long time,
like the Gex franchise.
Kind of like the Gex franchise.
They just can't go nowhere.
You know what? He's in good hands now.
And the reason that I'm willing to believe that Gex might make a furious comeback of all people is that there's so much buzz around like older Square Enix games, or Square games at least, being like brought back or like ported or remastered in some variety. I'm not surprised that Gex is one of them. Honestly, like this whole, like, I mean, this is.
I mean, Gex has a cult following, and like if you say the name Gex to nearly anybody who was born in like 98, 99, that kind of era of growing up in the early 2000s, most people have heard of Gex.
Yeah,
probably haven't played it, but have heard of it, right?
Right.
And it garners some weight, despite being maybe not that great of a video game.
No,
it's really funny. It's really funny that we discovered this just now, because, like, a couple days ago, I was just thinking, like, what would a Gex game in like 2021 or 2022 be like? Like,
can you imagine a Breath of the Wild Gex game?
I don't think it would be
Gex of the Wild.
Would he still be in a relationship with a human woman?
I don't know. Times change.
I will want to say no, but I can't give Square Enix enough credit for that to not happen.
Well, what I was imagining would be really great is if he kept up with the really dated 90s references, and everyone else in the game was like, what are you talking about?
Yes.
Like,
either
you go specifically like, we're going to be really dated 2021 and make that a joke, or keep it really dated 90s and make that a joke, like as like part of the joke. Like that, I feel like could be really, really fun. Because he's like, oh, note to self, don't go to a Halloween party at Mel Blank's house or whatever. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? Who is that?
Like, what is going on?
What are you talking about?
Gex, are you okay?
Did you suffer a concussion?
The accident happened years ago. It wasn't your fault.
You have to let go.
Well, we mentioned Breath of the Wild, so it's a good time to throw in the Breath of the Wild rumor floating around. By rumor, I mean the rumor is just that Breath of the Wild is doing fine. And the second game is on track for 2022 still, but
what a rumor.
The reason a lot of people were doubting it is because it didn't show up at the Game Awards. Because something we didn't talk about last time is that before the Game Awards happened, Jeff Keighley had hyped up that there would be 4 to 5 reveals on the level of Elden Ring.
Yes.
happening. Which
I mean,
awful statement. Never say that.
Yes,
Yeah.
because for a lot of people, I don't think there were any, to be
No.
honest.
It's like I'm personally really happy with a lot of the announcements that happened, but
Yeah.
that's because they really hit my specific interests in a David Cage Star Wars game. 'Cause that's gonna be
and a
insane.
David stage car.
and
boy.
a Space Marine too, like
Yeah.
very hyper specific interests. So
I think Nintendo's really good at not overhyping games. They don't.
they've been
show
doing
too
a lot
much.
more trailer and then release recently. They haven't been doing the thing where they show like a ton of trailers years ahead of time.
Mhm.
For most of their franchises, like we're seeing things around 6 to 12 months before they release, instead of the aside from like Splatoon and Breath of the Wild 2. I think everything else has mostly been this game's coming out within the next year.
Which I think is, I prefer that.
Case in
at
point.
least.
Yeah.
Case in point, Metroid Prime 4.
Metroid Prime 4. I mean, case in point, Metroid Dread, right? Like Metroid Dread
Yeah.
got announced and then just came out and was really good.
I was just like, I'm here. What are you gonna do about it?
Not much.
Yeah.
Ignore you mostly.
I don't know. I like this approach a lot more. I don't know if that's what's 100% happening with this new Breath of the Wild trailer whenever we're going to get it, but I would rather see it close to release than them string us along the whole time. Because like the joy of Breath of the Wild is discovery, so you don't want to show the whole game beforehand, right?
I think what they showed us at E3 was, or in their direct around E3, was like really well done. It showed you the big new kind of change, which is the floating islands and some cool things here and there, but they really didn't give away too much. So
I feel like there's still a lot to discover.
Really well.
I think like the next thing they show is probably just going to be a layout of how the floating islands work, and that's probably going to be it. I don't think they're going to go into any more mechanic details.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll see,
Most
though.
important thing is a release date, probably.
Yeah. And I would be happy to see them just like, they might be showing it at E3 in 2022, and then just having it released a few months later, because I could see that being the thing. Is the rumored release date right now is November 22, so that would be a good timeline.
Have we ever gotten a game that was announced to us and that's been in development for this long since we've known about it that just hasn't had an official title?
We definitely have.
We don't even know the official title to this game, and we've known about existence for like 2 years.
It's even on the most anticipated games category. It was like
a sequel,
whatever.
To
The sequel to Breath of the Wild, I guess.
I
feel like there's been a lot of games
actually the sequel to Breath of the Wild.
They call it that.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of games do the thing where they don't reveal the subtitle until later, like Horizon Forbidden West. We didn't know the subtitle for a really long time. So I think that's a lot more common than just not knowing the name of the game. We'll see. Yeah. They might just call it Breath of the Wild too.
I mean, if they call it a sequel to Breath of the Wild, that's probably still a better title than Triangle Force, Triangle Strategy, whatever
Triangle
it's called.
Strategy, Triangle Tactics,
or Triangle Strategy. Okay.
Still such a dumb title.
So now to bring us back down a little bit, I don't know the greater context of why this is happening. I don't think anyone really does, but Bungie's head of HR has stepped down.
Yes.
During a time in which Bungie is getting hammered. There's a lot of things that came out about Bungie in the last few weeks of rumors of harassment, sexual harassment, bad things, the same kind of things we've been hearing about Blizzard and Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Not quite to the same degree of like actual horrible things that we know details about, but it's never good.
Squeed.
And the other impression that surfaced from it as well is that it seems like, in comparison, Bungie's being a lot more like proactive about making changes. Not that any of these things should have been happening in the first place or that it's still good, but that in comparison, there seems to be a lot more actions being taken.
I wouldn't say proactive. They've been working on it for a while, and things have been slowly getting done, but very slowly.
It's better than nothing at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's better than nothing, but from what I've seen from people that have worked there, it's like they love to like just it's the same thing with like problems in Destiny, is that they love to tweet out like the blanket statement of like, we're listening and we're sorry. Here's how we're going to improve, and then they just don't do anything for like 3 years. It
Yes.
seems like while they are very quick to be like, we at Bungie recognize that this problem is happening, and here's how we're going to fix it. It doesn't seem like they do it like
Yeah.
not even like close to 100% of the time. It just kind of seems like, oh yeah, we'll just fire a bunch of people and then rehire everyone to just pick up their like pieces, and then everyone else at the company blames them when the game isn't good.
It
It's like
also
really embarrassing.
yeah, it
Just
also seems like
the chair throwing guy.
oh,
Yeah.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of like leeway given to legacy employees as well,
Oh,
which is something else
absolutely.
I was picking up on.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was specifically called out in the HR employee. Let me find her name. Gail DeHont. May not be saying that correctly, but she stepped down from her role. She does call out specifically that she was involved in a number of firings based on harassment that happened. And that she's just moving on at this point. But this came out the week after the whole article happened of their really awful things. The article itself is The Battle for Bungie's Soul, which is an IGN expose that was put out a week and a half ago at this point. So I would encourage people to read this through and see the type of behavior that's outlined here. It's very much in line of like the boys club locker room behavior that has been called out at Activision Blizzard.
Although there is no Cosby room.
Yeah, there's no Cosby room.
At least
that.
as far as we know.
See, the fact that we have to like judge things on this sliding scale of okay, are they as bad as Activision is awful, right? Like we shouldn't be in this point to begin with, but it's the reality of the studios that exist right now. These AAA studios are having a rough time and need to get themselves into proper gear. It makes me concerned that their heads of HR and whatnot, the women in leadership positions, are stepping down in mass from both Activision Blizzard and Bungie at this point, because I think that's showing that they're not making the progress they need to.
Yeah.
And without women in leadership, it's not going to be a safe place for women to be in leadership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being in that position, and I really can't blame anyone to be like, okay, cool, I've been put here to help fix the problem, and then you just look at everything that's now on your desk to do. It's
Everything is
not
on
possible
fire.
to fix the problem.
And especially if you're
everything's
told
on
like you
fire.
can't fire someone.
It's
and there's
that's
a problem.
Like, gonna be
like
really.
It's like, well, screw this. I don't care. I'm leaving. I can't blame anyone in that position.
We're gonna
because
hire
it's just,
you to
like,
fix this problem that we're also gonna actively prevent you from solving in the first place.
Yeah,
Have
exactly.
fun. And also,
at that point,
with Bungie too, it hits a little bit close to home for me because I know a couple of people that I really that I know and that I respect a lot that work there, and so I hope that you know who you are. I hope for your sake that you're being as safe as you can out there because it seems pretty rough right now. So.
Yeah, and a specific thing that also got called out is that a couple of the women in charge of writing a few of the expansions just did not get any support from the rest of the teams.
Yeah.
That were meant to support them, and like specifically, I think Curse of Osiris is the one that's called out, which is
and then
one that people generally didn't like, right?
But then other employees, tweeting out blaming them.
Yeah.
For that, that's unacceptable.
That's what really appalled me is that, like, okay, it's one thing. I don't think especially when you're releasing a product to like the public, it's like they have every right to complain. No matter what, everyone has every right to complain. Like, oh, I didn't get my money's worth or whatever. I think this could be better. When it gets to like being really mean and like death threats and stuff, like with what was happening with like the 343 Halo subreddit recently, like, that's just kind of inexcusable and really depressing. And it's just, like, okay, you kind of expect it with a gaming community because it's like, whatever, these people are all unhinged, just like sheep in the field going crazy. You can't hope to control them, whatever. You learn to deal with it, you're professional. But when it's other professionals in your workplace that you're supposed to be peers with these guys, and they're just putting all the problems, like all the blame on you, who, like, from what I understand from having read the article, that these are like not the original writing staff. They're a new writing team, and they didn't get the support. And also, I don't remember correctly, the problems with a lot of Destiny's just anything is usually not the right thing. It usually comes
Yeah.
with a lot of the other things.
It's like the
And just to blame-
presentation and the lack of support that
It's
happens between the different groups. It seems
It's-
like there's
it's
no
just
communication
so
between
weird.
different
Well,
teams.
And on the writing team too, because I read it a while ago. I haven't read it recently, so I'm trying to remember. But I do recall like a lot of what they had written would be changed without them knowing about it.
Yeah, and then
Which,
credit
like-
would be taken for the good.
Yeah,
then-
and it's like,
and
oh my god, that's
Yeah.
the most obnoxious thing. Like having your work changed last minute without your
Yeah.
knowledge, and then if there was something that good that came out of it, you weren't even given credit for it.
Oh my god, the poor woman who was like demoted or something along the lines because she didn't play the game or wasn't good enough
Oh yeah,
at the
That's
game.
so
And then it's like,
weird.
okay, well, will you give me time during work to play? No.
Yeah, I'm like that's another huge issue is assumptions
You have
that
to be good at the game to be in a higher position at the that's
and if
so-
you're gonna be like that, right? if you're like you have to be good at our game to really have like a position, like a higher position. If that's something that's really important to you, then it would be in your benefit to give your employees who maybe aren't as familiar with the game the time to become familiar with
Yeah,
it. Like if it's really that
exactly.
important to you in the first place, you got to give them that time because
you're saying that and it's you're gatekeeping your own employees.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
so weird. It's so
Well, because I mean, the
toxic.
goal is
What?
always that if what I heard from some people, especially MMO developers, is that the goal is always that the employees make the game and then enjoy playing it in their free time because it's a good game,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But that is a very different situation from, oh, you need to perform at this level to be in the writing team, right? Like I can vaguely understand it if it's like a fighting game and we're talking about like lead gameplay design or something where you need to be able to compete or play at that high level to understand what impact frame data and stuff is going to have. But when you're talking about a
4.0
first-person shooter,
yeah, you
that
need a
isn't
4.0
competitive.
KD in the Crucible to be on the writing team.
ridiculous, like completely ridiculous.
So-
Jump off a cliff.
Uh, yeah, and
One,
we haven't even talked about yet the crunch. Not even rumors at this point. The statements that some team members were working 60, 70, 80, or even 100-hour weeks
Yeah.
during some expansions
Even while so
with
sick
no
that
breaks
they
between
couldn't type.
crunch windows.
Yep. They had to dictate to someone else so that they could type for them because they were too sick to even type
Yeah.
on their keyboard properly.
Yeah, it's just insane. Absolutely insane. That is a level of crunch that like even Rockstar was
yeah.
not accused of. Like at least with Rockstar, we knew going out of it that the people that crunched really hard were the people that were willing to do it. They weren't people that were forced to do it. Whereas here, it very much makes it sound like they're trying to meet these heavy deadlines. Which I think is
It feels
Go ahead,
it
Brett.
feels like almost close to like indentured servitude or like some like really like
Oh,
thing that
it's-
you couldn't
Yeah.
imagine, like maybe in like
It's treading the line.
factories in like the Great Depression or something, but this is like, come on, guys. And
Or current-day
again, I
Singapore.
remember thinking like forever ago when they first announced that they were leaving Activision and becoming free to play, and I was like, you know what, because I was really happy. First of all, I was like, oh, finally they can escape from all these bad things. But then I was thinking back on how much of like the original Destiny expose was like just purely in-house, inside Bungie, like infighting and disagreements and arguing. And I was like, I don't think,
Especially with the narrative
leaving-
team. Like it all comes back to
Yeah.
this narrative team over and over.
it was like, I don't think this, like for the like first time, I don't think Activision was really the problem, and now it's like it just kind of it is very obviously like that, where it's like they do not
was-
need it.
Yeah.
It might have been like started or maybe prolonged by being in Activision, which is just like the famously like absolutely bottom of the line
Yeah.
kind of like just garbage pile in terms of management to have to deal with. But like still to
Mhm.
have these issues like after the fact is like it's not Activision's fault anymore. That's like that you made a big deal of going on your own. This is like
Yeah,
Bungie's
I
own
mean-
issue. It's depressing that even separating couldn't save them from this.
Yeah, no, I remember there was an interview with Marty O'Donnell when he was composing music for the first Halo game, or for first
Halo
Destiny
game.
game. called Oh my god.
You want to get to a better
He
game.
he was
Just think of a happy
basically
place.
he was making music to a game where he didn't really have a solid idea of the story yet. So a lot
Yeah.
of the music that he had composed, and thank God he's the composer. He and Michael Salvatore are the composers that they are, because they still made some beautiful music for Destiny
yeah.
1. But unlike when they were working on Halo, that he didn't have the script to work off of.
It
So he was
doesn't
like,
line up with
okay,
like specific moments in the story
yeah,
and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah.
because like you can think there's so many moments in Halo where it's like this track goes with this, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like everyone thinks of like the Warthog Run song. There isn't a song called the Warthog Run, but you know the song. Like as soon as you say
Yeah.
Warthog Run, everyone knows what you're talking about. Destiny's music, gorgeous, wonderful, but wasn't crafted along with the story. So he was just kind of like, okay, I got some
It's
vague concepts about something called a traveler, and we're
all,
some sort of space knight or something. Let's go.
almost like the decision to hire Peter Dinklage, a man who has gone on record saying that he hates video games
Yep.
for a very valid reason,
went
unfortunately, which is pretty.
went on to give one of the
Um,
greatest voice performances in video game. Oh wait, I was thinking of someone else. Oops.
Eh.
I'm rapidly
One
approaching your current location, Wyatt.
one thing that I did. I don't have the expose in front of me. I haven't read it in a while. But one thing I remember reading is one sort of bright spot in Bungie was the incubation teams, which said that they've had a lot less like pressure, a lot less crunch, and the workplace like respect all around has been a lot better in their incubation teams rather than their main like Destiny team, which is good to hear. If I remember that correctly, I believe
Yeah.
I was reading something about that. So
At least the escape pods are uncontaminated.
All right, that's the unfortunate Bungie talk mostly done with. I do again just want to mention that like it's hard for change like that. What is needed here to happen quickly, and the article itself calls that out. They mentioned that this change is a thing that's going to be happening over years, but it needs to happen, right? And it's not.
Yeah.
So many places in the industry are just saying they're doing something, and like 3 years ago were saying they're doing something. And they either haven't been or it hasn't worked. And it's the kind of thing where like you can't continually let things happen, right? You have to stop harassment from happening in the workplace. It's not a thing of it's not optional. It's not we're gonna try to stop it. It's you need to stop it or else you're gonna get sued by a state like Activision does.
We have zero tolerance for this, except if it's perpetrated by a straight white man.
It's
It's
and
insane.
then at the same time, it's like it's super easy to just say like what was it, the HR manager that left that you mentioned. It's so easy
Yeah.
to just say like, oh well, if you don't like working there, just leave and go work somewhere else.
That doesn't fix the problem though.
It doesn't fix the problem because there's just going to be like now there's one less person who recognizes the problem in Bungie.
One
that
less
is
of
now
the good
left.
ones is now
One
gone.
less of the good
Yeah.
ones. And now also like if you're in that horrible situation, it's like good for you that you can just think about leaving and getting a new job like that, and you think it's so easy. It's not like that for everybody, especially in the games industry where things are like super competitive for certain roles, especially like writing and art staff. Sometimes it's just like impossible to get certain positions, and it's not easy to just be like, well, I mean, maybe you will be able to leave Bungie and go to somewhere else, and that somewhere else might end up being Activision related or
Vision,
one of these other
yeah.
like huge conglomerates that own so many other like companies underneath them, and it's just like even if you can escape, like what your other options aren't really all that great. And
Yeah.
starting up indies is hard.
Yeah.
It's not a very good space in general.
All right. So let's talk about something a little bit more fun.
Please.
Thank God.
Something
Yes,
I
please.
always love is hardware in weird games hardware. There's the Playdate, which is slowly getting to release, which is like a little toy console
Oh.
essentially that has
Wait,
black and white
Yeah.
screen with like an e-paper, and then it has like a little crank on the side. It's super cool.
Yes.
These wacky indie dev consoles that are sponsored. One of them came out. It's called the Analog Pocket. So the Analog Pocket is this really cool Game Boy essentially. It's not an emulator. This is the big difference here. Is it's an FPGA. So FPGAs are, I forget the actual acronym, what it means, but essentially they are chipsets that reconfigure themselves to match the original hardware exactly. So instead of emulating, you are playing it on original hardware, basically. And it's a set that can emulate multiple consoles. So this one, at the start, is emulating Game Boy and Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance. But it can, with the addition of these other chipsets, they're releasing support Game Gear, Atari Lynx, and even Neo Geo games. So it's this crazy type of new tech that is basically allowing a next level of emulation for certain consoles where you are getting a 100% realistic experience. It's not software emulation. It is the hardware itself is reconfigured to match what you're trying to play, which is a really, really cool bit of tech. It also has a crazy cool screen. The resolution, I want to see if anyone here has a guess for what resolution they would pick to be a Game Boy Advance
4K.
emulator.
Yeah,
Game Boy
those
Advance
pixels got to be crisp.
You're
The
thinking
screen
too
on this
small.
thing-
You're thinking too small.
The screen on this thing is 3.5 inches. Important note.
4,000 pixels.
1440 by 1600 or 1600 by 1440.
Wow.
Those pixels got to be crisp.
It is.
Wow.
That is what we like to
It is a
call
better
in the
display than
industry
the newest
dense.
iPhone.
The newest iPhone, that's
God.
awesome.
that's
By
great.
pixel density. It's not technically higher resolution, but the pixel
Yeah,
density
yeah.
is 615 per inch.
That's because the screen is much smaller.
Yeah, it's
than,
small.
than the newest iPhone. But
And even cooler, it's got a ton of inbuilt color palettes for Game Boy games and Game Boy Color games because those did not have like a backlit screen. So what
Yeah,
you would do is you'd have certain lights that you could turn on that would just change the colors to react differently to different lights. So you'd have like a blue filter essentially that was like whites and blues, and you have like a green one that's greens and blue in whites, and then grayscale. So it
it's got
has
a
all those
sleep
options.
mode. It's got a sleep
so
mode
cool.
too. That's a weird thing to freak out about, but a sleep mode for playing Game Boy games makes all the difference
yeah.
in the
Excellent.
world.
This
doesn't
is a
have
piece of
an,
tech that like I 100% when they start becoming more available, because as of right now they are not readily available. These sold out like 2 years ago and have been in production. But they're looking to make these more readily available and also allow them to hook in with proper emulation. So if you have old Game Boy carts and whatnot and don't want to have to plug them in every time, rip those ROMs onto a disc and then put that in. So you don't have to have different copies all the time. That's also in the works. So tons of cool stuff.
There's also a lot of options for music making on it too. You can plug in, like I'm seeing here on their website, you can plug in, looks like an electric keyboard or something.
Yep.
Call me when there's an emulator for those McDonald's Sonic games.
It also even has built into it. It's also got a drag and drop gameplay game creator, so you can create little Game Boy Color type experiences. This is the kind of thing that I love.
They're also making a Switch style dock for it, so you can dock it to the TV in a very similar fashion.
Yeah, I don't believe that's out yet, but it is. They're working on it.
This is the. And might I add, this is quite a slick looking unit. This is.
It's
quite a slick
very
unit,
like high quality looking.
Alex,
and also if I can go down the pipe dream rabbit holes, that I really hope that this is like the start of like a much bigger technological movement, because a problem that is becoming more and more apparent recently is just software preservation in terms of games that sometimes like you'll always be able to play Final Fantasy VII. It's on like literally everything. New versions of it are made every single second of every single day.
And even if they weren't, instantly some super fan is going to go make that version, right?
Exactly.
I mean, when you think about it, Bethesda really ahead of their time. They're future-proofing Skyrim's
exactly.
future.
You will never not be able to play Skyrim. certain
You'll be able
older
to play
games.
it in the future. You'll be playing it on your Apple Watch. It'll be amazing.
Don't joke about that. They're gonna do it.
Don't you dare.
You're depending, if you don't have a PS2 or a PS1, like take like Wild Arms or like Armored Core, like Ryan or I mentioned earlier. It's just like if you don't have the specific hardware that these games are released on, and they just weren't lucky enough to be put on like PSN or something, then you have to be comfortable with regular old emulation, which I know a lot of people aren't.
It's also like even if I am comfortable emulating, I would rather support the developers, right?
Exactly.
By getting a copy, but I can't.
But in that
at
case,
least play it how it was supposed to be played, as close as possible. You know.
In that case, we don't want a happening such as the Silent Hill remake.
Oh God!
Where they got rid of the fog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Like just other mishandlings like that. So I really hope because people are like the Game Boy and its brethren is like one of the most beloved consoles
So
ever.
I'm just
I think
imagining Nintendo could literally just re-release the Game Boy.
oh
No
God, and it would
changes,
probably
nothing.
do better than the
Yeah,
Switch.
no
Do
changes.
you think?
Just re-release the Game Boy and then start selling carts again. It'd sell,
Oh,
right? Like,
It's
would we be able to use old carts?
I
Because
imagine so, right? Like,
I
just literally
have
the same hardware. Make it again.
because
Tons of
I
money.
have an Incredibles and a Dora the Explorer game that are begging to be played.
What you could even do if you wanted to make it kind of fun or something, it's like make them super small and be like little keychain things. Like really make them like just
Ooh,
out there
Yeah.
and accessible. You know, like oh we
like
have
the
it at
phone.
we have it on the stand at Walgreens or something. Like just make it really like
Yeah.
accessible.
Like the
I've
the
seen
phone or the backpack charms.
Yeah.
I've seen versions of those where it's like a phone case and it's a really fat phone case, but on one side it's your phone and then on the other side it's just a full ass Game Boy.
Yeah.
Because I'm just
playable on the
imagining
back.
like how well something like that would sell if they just added the ability to dock it, right? Just
Yeah.
have like a
Totally.
little mini dock that you can play it on a TV, and they would sell like hotcakes instantly.
Yeah, or
So many people would buy that.
internal memory, so you can have like, oh, this is like 25 games on one cart or whatever, and I can put it all in, and I can have all these that I want or something. It's the good version of the equivalent of like the
mini
like the
consoles.
SNES. Yeah, the
Yes.
NES Classic.
Yeah.
There needs to be more of these for more of
The new
systems.
Atari.
Then oh god,
The
And
new Atari is
because-
a nightmare.
don't
Because
bring
because
that up.
you know, as it stands right now, good luck getting an affordable copy of God Hand, my guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's like
seriously.
under $100. Under
I mean, there are
$300.
Fire Emblem games that are like $250 to get.
Yeah.
Not even that old ones. I think one of the Wii ones is that price.
I mean,
so-
there's an
No
entire
way.
the Neo Geo like home console. The games are more expensive than the actual hardware.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
you can get a Neo Geo system for pretty cheap. Getting games for it can cost as much as a new car. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Which is why like so many people are interested in this type of FPGA and emulation where you can have original hardware and then find a way to essentially hack into it, a way to play ROMs, right? Where that you can hopefully acquire from legally from ripping them yourself, but obviously you can also get them from sites of ill repute, which we don't
High
suggest.
stuff.
we
We're
do not
encouraging that.
officially endorse.
No, we
on
don't
this
suggest you
podcast.
do that,
Not at
but
all.
it's the only way to play some games, right? Like,
Here are some resources that you should absolutely avoid.
and it's a thing of like,
links
if-
on screen.
people put the effort towards game preservation, we can get stuff like Star Fox 2, which was never released and then got released with the
Yeah.
SNES Classic. It's just such an interesting thing that was a game that just didn't exist because they never released it, even though it was done, basically. It's wild.
We could have gotten things like the defunct Battlefront 3, which was, you know,
Yeah.
what 95% done. They just had to do major bug fixes and stuff, and the game was ready to go. Never released.
Because I think even if you do have like a virtual console or the like Switch Online thing you have the ability to play like N64 and below games, people would still buy a N64 or a GameCube or a GBA that you were selling because
Absolutely.
tons of people want that original hardware. Or something close to the original hardware to play it on. That's like a specific console for that, especially if it doesn't have internet connectivity. I think so many people just miss that, right?
What
Yeah.
would a new design for the GameCube look like that still paid homage to it? Or would you prefer the
I
exact
feel like it'd just
same
be
thing?
smaller.
Yeah. Smaller, maybe like I don't know what like different features you could add. that
Have the
would- that would-
built-in Game Boy.
Yeah, the Game Boy
Accessible
player would be
on
built
that.
in.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Just little quality of life things. Yeah, the Analog Pocket is great. They're working on a few other analog console emulation type things. I think they're working on one that does Nintendo Entertainment System and SNES, which is a cool project that's in the works. Looking forward to
think a
see what these
good-
are like when they come out.
I think a good middle ground for companies like Sega and stuff like that. Because I remember Sega. I don't think they do it anymore, but they had kind of it was like a Sega Genesis like classic, like an NES classic style thing, right? But it also had a cartridge port on top where you could put in your old Sega Genesis games
Yeah.
and play it as they were. And
Well, because
they were,
Sega
like,
consoles
smaller
always
versions.
had backwards compatibility, right? You always could
Yeah.
plug a Sega console into the newer console to stack them. That's the infamous Sega Tower.
You guys
The
remember?
monstrosity.
Do you guys remember in the art gallery when they brought out the vintage consoles?
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Oh god, I tried an old Pong system and I had to like put on gloves and like
Yeah,
just to like use the knobs on it.
Yeah,
It was so
the-
cool.
the art handling gloves.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was really, really cool.
It's super interesting. Yeah, I love these game preservation initiatives that are happening, especially because like the Analog Pocket is a high quality system. That thing is, again, high resolution screen. I think it's made out of metal, so it is a very solid construction.
It looks like it.
Yeah, it looks great. It's the kind of thing
Well,
where
and they're already
There's
already
something-
supporting it with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about the dock before. We're talking about like the keyboard stuff. They have like a
Music
like a
software.
hard case. They have a hard case for it if you want to carry it around.
There-
Like they're
There's something that's beautifully industrial about the screws in the corners.
yeah.
Same reason I'm
it's a
super
good-
excited for when the Steam Deck is coming, because that Steam Decks are going to be insane with emulation and game
Oh,
preservation
God,
of
yeah.
like
People are gonna go crazy.
that's going to be the
Boy.
perfect PS1 and PS2 console of just
It
like
might be something
PS Vita.
finally
Yeah.
dethrone the
Mm.
PSP as the handheld
Yeah.
emulator.
Yeah,
game.
finally.
It looks to be about
I
the
still
same
have a
size as it.
PSP
Finally.
somewhere.
Mine's at my dad's
Same with a
house
Vita. I've still got that around.
somewhere.
You know, there's an Uncharted game that's exclusive to the PSP or PS Vita.
Yeah,
PS Vita, and it's great. It
It's
was
good.
really good. It was actually my first Uncharted game ever because I didn't have a PlayStation console, but I had a Vita, and it was my first Uncharted game. And I was like, man, I'm really missing out clearly because this is really cool.
yeah. But man, I want more good news, like these projects actually succeeding, because it's rare that we see these hardware projects actually succeed, and the Analog Pocket's been doing great. So
I'd
rooting
love
for
to.
you,
Say,
come on.
I mean, you know me. I'm not the biggest fan of like retro games, right? It's something that I've been trying to break into more and more. But I'm not. But I would go ahead and support this just to make sure.
it's also
that
just like the
this sort
ease of
thing-
playing, right? That's always such a huge
Yeah.
concern. Is
Yeah.
finding a way to set up an old console is awful. Like I have a GameCube that I have set up, and I was super lucky that my dad, when I was a kid, got the component cable that connects to an HDMI
Oh, thank
TV.
God, yeah.
Because that thing is now like $400.
They're
It's
super specific.
insane.
Nothing else
So
works.
luckily, I can plug my GameCube into a regular TV, but I have to first convert the component cable outputs to not even RGB. It's like CMYK or something. It is the
Oh.
printer equivalent of RGB.
What
That I then have to combine that back into its component cable. So it's the component output is a specific type of output.
Turns into a whole
Um,
science project.
So then I plug that into a converter that allows me to plug in an HDMI, which the benefit of the component cable is it's a digital signal, so it doesn't need like power to be converted. But of course, the GameCube can't transmit audio through the component output. You have to also plug in the regular video cables that have the two audio, stereo, and left and right audio jacks, and then line those to wherever you're putting the HDMI into, because HDMI can't do sound. Which is just, it's such a
What a
process.
system.
It is crazy. It is a bonkers process that is very insane. I would love to see just some way to play those games that isn't crazy. We don't have it yet. So. All right.
Someday soon, hopefully.
Let's go back to some more interesting news that we have yet to talk about from this.
Still in the news section.
This entire episode is the
The
news
whole
section because
episode is the
we've
news section.
tons of stuff that
Yeah.
we didn't talk about.
Oh boy.
To let anyone know that's watching the podcast, Epic Game Store is doing another 15 days of free games. So you can go pick up those free games every day until I think the 1st. So
Cool.
good thing to keep an eye out. You can actually do it on the website too, Alex. You don't need to have it downloaded. They've enabled it on the website, so you can pick it up on
you
your
can't
phone.
play those games because you still can't set the launcher.
But you
at least
could
you can
figure
own
out, once you do inevitably figure it out, you would have a backlog of games to play. Today's is The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. Great game. So yeah, it's just a nice. I'm glad to see Epic is continuing the gift giving.
You know,
this
it
season.
seems like from some more recent reports that they're doing a lot of this at a huge loss. But they also
Yeah.
have that good Fortnite money coming in, so I think
Yeah.
they're probably fine.
You can-
I mean, the
You
Epic
can
Store
afford a
itself can
good
operate
huge-
at a
good
big
huge-
loss
huge
for a
loss.
while.
Well, also, don't forget, I mean, they own Unreal, so
They
that's
do,
another
yeah. They're
big old
probably-
chunk of change coming in.
They're
You
also
know,
doing a
The
thing.
Matrix engine.
They're also doing a thing where I think until January 6th or something, if you get a game that's over $15, you get a free $10 off coupon. And it's not just like, oh, you get
Mhm.
one. It's like I read the thing.
It's
It's like
infinite.
every single game that you get that is over $15 is now $10 off. So as you
Why-
just fill up your whole
I got
thing
Solar
with games
Ash
that are
for
over $15.
25% off already, basically, which is
You know,
Yeah,
I
excited to see that.
for a
Final Fantasy
while,
VII Remake.
Why won't the Epic Game Store work for me?
I've thought about we're Epic. We have money. We have a lot of money. Like, our store is never going to be able to compete with Steam. So let's just do this entire thing at a gigantic loss because it'll be fine because we're Epic. It's all good. And
Yeah.
just
We
make a
truly
bunch of
are Epic.
gamers very happy.
Yeah.
And just have them come over to our platform.
Well, speaking of
And
making gamers very unhappy,
tantalize.
Oh, no.
Hey,
no.
guys, remember how kind of excited, at least I was, that Stalker 2 is happening? How
Oh,
happy
do
I
we
was
got-
that Stalker
At
2
least
we
has
gotta
a
talk
happy
about
ending.
this?
This
has
does
a
have a happy
happy
ending. It has a
ending.
happy ending. All right.
It's more of a cautionary tale.
So a week
Yeah.
ago,
Somewhat happy ending.
Stalker 2 devs announced that they were going to be putting NFTs in the game.
No.
And some of them would be things where they're NFTs. I still don't know why these needed to be NFTs, because you could do everything they were describing without using NFTs. So I wonder, like, NFT right now is like an anti-buzzword. It's like, as soon as
You
people
say
see
it
it,
and
they get
people run
nervous.
away.
It has the
cheese
same
touch.
effect that microtransactions or loot boxes have.
So-
People just
Yeah,
It has the
book
same
it in
effect
the
as a
opposite
sweater vest
direction.
does.
They were going to let 3 people go take a trip to their office. This would be bid on auction, so the highest bidders would get this. Taken to the Stalker office and scanned to become NPCs in Stalker 2. Which, like, it's a neat idea to scan some
Okay,
random
that's
people
cool.
to become NPCs, right?
Mhm.
But it was a bidding war, and you could sell it after you got it for the next month. So super sketchy, right? That you have to pay money and sell this. Like, this, if you're gonna do this as like a giveaway or something, right? Like, don't make this a money thing. Then there was such incredible backlash within the next 2 days, I think, happened. It was like 2 full days passed before this got canceled.
Yeah.
The developers made a tweet defending their decision to put NFTs in the game. Then 30 minutes after that tweet was made, it was deleted. And then 30 minutes
Good.
later, a new tweet came out saying they were removing NFTs from the game.
Yeah. That
Good.
person
Don't
who
double
sent the
down
first
on the
one,
stupid.
that person who sent the first one was probably immediately fired. I can imagine if they got rid of that tweet that fast. Unfortunately, this person is no longer
He
working.
like comes
for
into
them.
management and he's just like, "Hey, why was my tweet taken down?" They're like, "Yeah,
Sorry,
out
bye."
At the end of the day."
Yeah, you're being taken down now. Bye, bud.
That move was truly
We've already
Doubling-
replaced you.
doubling down on the stupid.
It's yeah.
I mean, wow.
Which I like. Honestly, they undid it. You can't undo all the the bad reputation that you've just gained for your company now by
People are
willing
mad
to do.
about this. This was
It's
Well, because people are
yeah.
excited for Stalker 2.
well, Stalker is a
There's
niche
lot of
franchise, right? And so people are excited to see
Yeah.
that their niche game was getting a remake. So you have a loyal fan base that is almost guaranteedly going to buy this game, right? You know there is a fan base here to buy this game. Maybe not huge, but they're there. You do not want to alienate those people by then doing like one thing that the game actively is like Stalker's main themes are like, about taking down
against
structure
greed.
and
Oh my god.
so
Yeah.
it's the kind of thing where it makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. There's also rumors that a bunch of the higher up developers there had invested in blockchain and NFT technology. That this was a push to make their stocks
Wow,
rise.
they really thought this was gonna go over well. They really thought this was gonna be.
They totally
a big
thought
thing.
they had it.
Well,
It's
little.
so
Trying to think
strange.
about
Really something.
Yeah, they've also announced microtransactions for the multiplayer, which, you know, at this point, just as long as it's not in the single player, fine. Let it exist in the
Yeah.
multiplayer. But Man,
Because I
Right,
can
you
ignore
look so
it.
defeated.
I
You're like,
am. I'm
"You know
very
what?
defeated right now.
Whatever, man.
It's awful. It's
Monetize all of our customization and have them in separate cores so we can't even mix and match stuff. It's fine. I don't even care anymore. It's
well.
$20.
Thank you for
a triple
transitioning us to our
short.
next topic, Wyatt, which is Halo Infinite's
Oh,
ongoing
No, it keeps
Man.
getting
trouble.
worse.
planned. I
God.
planned it.
So Halo
God,
Infinite,
I'm so good.
in between the time that we've been talking about the Game Awards and stuff, the multiplayer has officially launched. I think all of us still agree that we're very positive on the gameplay.
Yes.
Do I need
But-
to update you guys on the amount of hours I've put in? You know what? For my own sanity, I don't want to look.
Yeah, don't look at
Please
that.
don't.
I think
hurt
Brett and I are
yourself.
in a similar position of we've kind of stopped playing the multiplayer unless other people are playing it
Yeah.
Yep.
because the progression is so bad and it's just not satisfying. So
I'm tired of getting. I get nothing for winning. I get nothing for do good. Sometimes I just get nothing because I don't consider a
yeah.
rectangle on the screen a reward.
Well,
And,
even
like,
worse
the-
is just like the issues with the way they have corely structured this armor system with armor cores and whatnot is so flawed
It's
that they need to like tear this down and redo how these armor cores work because it is
legitimately yeah.
awful. Like they need to, your parts need to be unlocked across every armor core. They just kind of have to at this point because they promised, if you go back in interviews and whatnot, they say there's going to be millions of customization options within the first few
There's
weeks.
10.
You can't, not even, right? Like I have maybe one armor piece in every slot at this point, and I'm just like, I don't even want to turn them on because then I look like everyone else. It's,
Yeah,
there's no
'cause
customization.
everyone-
There's no point. The colors don't work for certain armor pieces. It's just awful.
And see,
No.
I'm in a different boat to where you guys are, where especially for my reach core, I have like a pretty decent amount of stuff that I can do now. Maybe still not as much as it should be.
But not as much as
Or-
Reach. Like
No, I'm getting there. I'm getting there for the amount of time that I've put in, and I'm looking at it right now, and I want to cry. But it was like I put in way too much effort to get the amount of stuff I have now. And it doesn't feel like I've put in that much effort because I have been no-lifing it, but then when I really think about it, it's like no one there's a very small percentage of people that's probably playing this game as much as I have. And that's a good thing because oh my god.
Don't enable their behavior.
No, I do not condone playing over 7 days of this game. I do not condone it at all. But yeah, it's like because I was getting this weird mode of like, well, I have a decent amount of stuff here. I can customize my reach guy to look a bunch of different ways. Like I don't see what the problem is. And then I noticed the problem. It's the amount of time I've put in. I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
this is not
Finally,
like a sustainable
I'm-
amount of time.
I've almost reached 90 in the battle pass, and it's like this still doesn't feel like enough for the amount of effort I've put in because half the stuff I've unlocked are XP boosts to get me to the next XP
Oh.
boost.
Yeah.
That's
And
disgusting.
I'm going to paraphrase what I said during our great gamer debate like last week when we were talking about this, where
Yes.
and that was the first time that I had thought about it, where I realized that this is diminishing returns, the video game, because
Yeah.
our poor friend Wyatt said that he's almost at rank 90 in the battle pass. And this, I like you said that, like, oh, I can't imagine very many people. I can imagine a lot of people, like kids or whatever, just like guys that just like, oh, I get to work from home and I have a job that I'm just like on call for and waiting for people to call me in my spare time. I'm gonna play Halo Infinite for a while, sure. Like
Mhm.
a lot of people I can imagine being in that position where they are now almost done with a battle pass that is supposed to last half a year in under 2 months. Because 343's
Oh.
kept adding so many like things that they should have added, like, oh yeah, like ranking up is easier now because XP
Yeah.
is easier. You get like this for like this many games or
Challenges
whatever.
But also,
were
Brett, it's
updated
been less than a
recently to be
month.
lot easier.
It's not even been 2 months.
No.
It's
been less than a
under
month.
2 months.
No.
It's been less than 1
It's
month.
been- oh my god!
That's-
And then-
Please don't
so-
say that.
So now, and this isn't like I cannot stress this enough how little it's like, oh, you play the game too much. If you like a game that you're playing it that much, you should be rewarded for playing it. But now, in like a week, poor Wyatt is going to run into the problem of now he will have absolutely nothing left to gain from playing the game, because you've reached the end of this 6-month-long season in what is probably like still under a month, depending on how long it is when you get there. And it's like, that is all on 343, because you keep like, okay, whatever, you fix the XP game system now, great. Maybe like part of that is the fixed. Part of that is like people in the community not like, probably realizing that, again, this is supposed to last half a year, guys. You really sure you want that done that fast? In a couple weeks, when more people realize that there's literally nothing left to gain unless you spend $20 on an armor set that you can get in rank 1 in a game from 10 years ago, the streets will be set aflame.
And to be clear,
because
too,
it's atrocious.
To be clear, I haven't bought a single tier in the battle pass. I did all that progress myself. Like,
well, because like, why would you? It's not worth it. It's not satisfying, right?
No, exactly. Because like the only amount of skipping that I've done is using XP boosts, which you don't.
It's the kind of thing where like buying a tier for this battle pass is an option that just fundamentally is not attractive to, I think, 90% of people.
I bought one tier for a challenge swap that I'm probably going to use in 2 seconds.
I don't know about, I can't speak for everyone, but at least for most of the people, especially people that I play like 14 with and other MMOs and whatnot, the appeal of these armor sets and whatnot is that you did something to earn them, right?
Yes.
Like, I can show off my fancy bird that plays great music in 14 because I did the crazy trial when the expansion launched and got the crazy bird. And like, yeah, now like 6 years later, everyone can get that bird very easily. But at the time, it was impressive, right? And so it has weight to it. So it's the kind of thing where you need that for this. You need the thing like the Recon helmet, right? Stuff like that.
You know what? I know we just talked about Bungie. Even Destiny kind of understands this.
Yeah, they're doing it better than this.
Someone's running around. I don't know why you want to, but if someone's running around with the Braytech Winterwolf or the Whisper of the Worms sniper, you know what they had to go through to get those things. Whether it was a good quest line or not, they still had to go through something to get that. And if you recognize, oh, you had to do this stupid jumping puzzle to get to get the Whisper of the Worms, at least you know that they went through something to do that.
Yeah.
They didn't just grind away because, they have, I guess, nothing better to do with their time, or they, bought a tier in the battle pass. No, they put in work. They put in effort because, oh my God, Whisper of the Worms was really hard. So
Outbreak perfected.
It's been a while since we've said this controversial thing I'm about to bring up, why, but I know you'll agree with me, is that I think if Modern Warfare did anything right, it was that live service that they had going along with it. Because you could get for a while now, eventually, but for that first year, which is the amount of time that a COD usually lasts for, let's be honest, they had like the best kind of battle pass where it's like you can regain all the currency that you spent on it to get it in the first place to buy the next one. So
I've bought 3 battle passes in that game absolutely for free because you could get COD points in the battle pass itself. They don't do it anymore.
That is a magnificent system.
Exactly.
Well, it's a system that almost everything is used, right? Like almost every battle pass uses that system because that's the appeal of it, right? You get people to play your game so they're more engaged and having fun, and also more likely to spend money in the store. So you don't need them to spend money on the battle pass in the future if they keep playing that much.
And my favorite assault rifle disguised as a light machine gun, the Holger, I had to do a bunch of challenges in order to unlock it, and I'm happy I did because it's my favorite gun in the entire game.
And
it was worth it.
On top of that, Wyatt, I think I want to ask you this also: if it was just Modern Warfare and they just maybe they just gave you all the weapons, there were no skins for them except for what was in the battle pass, and that was it, that would kind of suck.
It would.
But the game has a progression system built in where you have to, how do you get gold on a gun? You have to use that gun and do a bunch of like honestly really grueling and annoying challenges with it, but once you get it, it's like, now my sniper's gold now. I don't even care if everyone else has it by now. I remember what it took for me to do it, and I did it, and I mean, still
Brett,
have it.
You know
I
what?
remember the very last headshot that I got with that, submachine gun or whatever to get that, and how happy I felt when I did it.
You know what other games do this that make you feel really happy that are critically acclaimed constantly? From Software games, the
This-
Souls
yeah.
games.
Yeah.
This is
You
the
were gonna throw
appeal.
Final Fantasy 14 again.
I mean, 14 does do it, but I already
Critically
mentioned that.
acclaimed.
It does it infinitely better than this, but like Dark Souls and like the appreciation you in feeling of victory that you get from defeating a boss that has challenged you is the same as the kind of appreciation when you're playing a Call of Duty game and you get that crazy skin or crazy gold star on your weapon that shows that you mastered it. I remember Battlefront 2, the newer Battlefront 2, had like the master skins for the heroes.
Yeah.
That makes you feel really cool when you're like, oh, I played this hero enough to get this master skin. Like, that's very fun. That's the kind of thing that's super rewarding. And it's just not in Halo. It's just the kind of thing that Halo is like, which is insane because Halo used to always do it, right?
Exactly.
This franchise
Yeah,
always had this.
It was, in terms of first-person shooters doing it, I would even argue that it's like, sure, it wasn't in 1 and 2, but once you got to 3, it's like the pioneer of like giving you the cool piece of armor for your first-person
Yeah.
shooter character for doing the hard thing. And even in like Reach, you have like it's like the Phantom helmet or something, where it's like you need every single other helmet variant in the entire game before you can even unlock the capability to buy this one. And that costs like however millions of credits. Like, yeah, okay, that's not hard, but it takes a really long time to do. This is in the same franchise of something where just everyone could just have the same armor all the time because everyone unlocks it at the same order, and there's
Yeah.
there's
I can't
honestly
tell
no
you
skill
how
to it.
many just like default Mark 7 Spartans there are. And in a Halo game, especially one that's been out for a couple of weeks now, that's just in terms
what
of
it
Halo, it's
said.
unacceptable.
Because when I have more
Because-
fun not caring about it than I do caring about it. And that's bad. That is a really bad sign.
because I've been so addicted to this game, I can get through weeklies in like 4 days, right? Because I have a problem.
Well, because
And
like what
then-
I've done, I've never completed a
and
weekly
then after-
here.
And then after the fact, I have the most amount of fun because I can just, dick around with
Yeah.
the grapple shot and just do some weird stuff. Like, it's the one I have the most fun. It's yeah. Thank God that the game
I want
to
Spider-Man in my
play-
Halo game.
thank God the game is like I wouldn't be here if the game wasn't just so much
Yeah.
fun. Like I wouldn't be.
And I also
would-
think, going forward, Wyatt, there's another problem with the system that hasn't revealed itself yet, and won't until the second Battle Pass comes out. But if they keep it the same, there's another problem I see them having that's going to be really bad. So right now, you are limited on your weekly amount of XP, right? Aside from your 50 XP for playing games once you cap out,
Yeah.
which is
right?
minuscule in the grand scheme of things.
It moves relatively quickly when you're doing a current battle pass and you're like doing your regular weeklies and whatnot. What happens a year from now when you have like, let's say, a week off or something and you just want to relax and play some Halo for like 3 days straight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you cap out on your XP and then you get really busy all of a sudden. You got to go on like a business trip or something. You're someone that can't play the game anymore for like the next week. You're not progressing on any of the stuff you might have had saved up. So now you've suddenly got 2 battle passes, likely, at this point. Your first one that you haven't finished, and then the second one that you probably have barely started, and you're making no progress on either, because you were capped so quickly on weeklies that you can't make enough progress.
And they've said that not that you'll be able to level up both at the same time, but that you will be able to choose.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that
Oh,
after a
that's-
while, because I didn't think of this either, but that's a very good point, Ryan. After a while, you will just have so many things, not that you can get, but that you cannot get because you don't have enough time to get it. That is just like,
Yep.
what's the point
That's
anymore?
vile. That's
Well,
absolutely
I don't think
sad.
it's intentionally bad, right? I don't think they
No,
looked at this
yeah.
and I think they just have not thought this through. And the only reason I thought of this right now is like I wasn't thinking about this until we had this conversation, but then I just remembered our next bit of news that we were going to talk about is Warframe related. Warframe Night Waves do this thing where if you complete a week's weeklies, any weeklies you haven't done from prior weeks come back. So you have infinite weeklies so long as you had like not done ones before. Which means you can always complete the battle pass up until the week before, because the weeklies are not particularly hard. They're generally things that you can do relatively easily. The main time gate is time, right? It's like there's a limited number of weeklies per week, unless you skipped a few weeks, at which point you have the last 4 weeks of weeklies you can play through if you want to play the game a lot at one time and not little by little all over the place. So it's the kind of thing where like, Warframe's system works really well for Warframe. I don't think it would work as well for Halo, but they need to think of something that is going to deal with that when it becomes a problem, because it will become a problem.
Can I say one last thing about Halo before
Yeah,
we
yeah.
segue off of it? Regarding the campaign, I was having an okay time playing through it. Then an update happened, maybe a day to a few days ago. I can no longer launch it.
Oh no.
I can no longer play the game.
Well,
I see. I don't know if we blame that on Halo or we blame that on the Xbox PC app being absolutely terrible.
this is true.
Yeah.
Because that has happened to me with numerous games on the Xbox app on PC. Is this app needs to be fixed because it doesn't work, right? It has issues where it won't install a game to the right drive. It is absolutely awful. It does not work.
Speaking of Halo and speaking of bugs, do we quickly want to touch on the split screen bug before we move on?
We do. There's one other thing I want to mention about progression. So to make sure that it's not just us feeling this. So I talk to a few devs occasionally. I have a dev that I know works on Spellbreak, which is another battle royale free to play game that has battle passes and whatnot. And so I talked with him about like the progression in Halo Infinite's battle pass and how he felt about it. And he was like, when they're designing a battle pass, they do it they do a battle pass for like 2 months because people do not have the attention span for more than that, right?
Yeah.
You can't make one longer because people will stop caring. They don't have a new thing to look forward to. And he had so many problems with this battle pass that even we don't talk about. So it's the kind of thing where like we as the varying stages of Halo player base, right? Wyatt is a hardcore player, I'm more on the casual side, all have issues with the system. But people that work on these kinds of systems all the time see a ton more flaws that are waiting to be released as people get more and more upset. And like, I think you can see if you go on the Halo subreddit right now, the top rated post is that someone is disappointed that their friends aren't playing the game anymore.
Was the Halo
Right.
subreddit reopened?
Yeah, it's open again now. It was only closed for a little while.
I'm having the same issue. A lot of people are like, yeah, we're just going back to like, whatever game that we mostly play anyways. Like,
Well, I am not
It's like I would rather go back and play
My
Deep
friends
Rock
are.
Galactic, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
and I enjoy Halo, but I also want to get through the campaign. So I don't want to play the campaign then go play multiplayer, especially when multiplayer is not rewarding.
And campaign gives you nothing for multiplayer except for.
But the campaign's really fun on
Color
its own,
schemes.
so I don't need to
We should.
worry about the multiplayer.
You know what we should do for one of the Game Pass game months?
Mm.
We should choose. One of us should choose a game where we can all play it together on a multiplayer bit thingy.
That would be
Well,
fun.
I have
absolutely.
a couple of Game Pass game ideas or Gamecast games in mind. For
We gotta
that
just
sort
pick
of
like
thing.
Deep Rock at one point. That'd be great.
Dude, Deep
Um,
Rock. God
all right.
bless Deep Rock.
So Wyatt, go ahead about your co-op bug.
Yes, so I think I posted this in link chat a couple days ago, but there is a hilarious Halo Infinite bug going around at the moment that people have been able to trigger by doing a number of things that I can't remember off the top of my head. But basically, it enables co-op, a split screen co-op, kind of. I'm trying to remember exactly what the issues are. Fobs just completely don't work. for
Most
the
of the
other
game
player.
breaks.
Most of the game breaks.
It's not a
It
thing
breaks-
that works flawlessly.
We do not recommend this at all
No.
unless it's like a fresh save and you just want to see it. Because the other thing is, it will completely brick your save to the point where it just won't load anymore. So if it's something you want to try, make sure it's an empty save slot, and so you can just get through it and just and experience it and then not lose anything.
Yeah.
But I did think it was rather interesting. We kind of have it. They shadow dropped another Halo feature. Look at them.
Yep. Well,
Those
speaking
devs.
of shadow drops, it doesn't have anything to do with shadow drops. It does have to do with Final Fantasy VII Remake, though. Final Fantasy VII Remake's had an interesting week. A couple things have happened.
Suffering from success.
We're going to do the good thing first to get us off of the Halo talk. The good thing is that if you got Final Fantasy VII Remake through PS Plus starting next week, or this Wednesday, so the day after this podcast comes out, you can download the PS5 version and upgrade that. Upgrade to that as the same way that people that own the original game could upgrade to the PS5 version. I think it still costs like $10 or something, but you have that option now available to you. Unlike before where you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So
Is it a graphical upgrade? I don't.
it's graphical and frame rate. And I think it boosted to
frame.
60 FPS, which is
They also
significant.
improved the skybox.
Yeah,
Which
fixed
is one of
the,
the biggest memes.
the skyboxes that are rough.
It was so bad that they specifically pointed it out when they first revealed the PS5 upgrade.
Because they knew
Yeah.
Because
people
it
were
was
complaining about
so
it.
bad.
Yeah,
So bad.
Just could not handle the texture resolution that they were trying to do. That's the good bit of news. The bad bit of news, and Brett, I know I was holding myself back from getting involved in you and Wyatt talking about it, because I know you've been having a good time with Final Fantasy VII Remake on PC. And it's been working for you pretty well, from my understanding. You haven't had
Everyone
major
else
issues.
has been having the Wyatt Tsushima
I
effect.
don't know how
So-
sad.
Oh,
Brett, I
no.
do want to confirm this is an actual issue and isn't just like them planning for the wrong
Okay.
GPUs or something. Supposedly, the build they released, someone went into the files and found it tagged as a development build.
Oh,
And
good
not a release
job.
build.
No!
Oh no.
So that was
Wait,
found.
Oh,
God.
I thought you guys were talking about 14.
No, this is 7
Oh,
Remake.
7
So 7 Remake
This is 7
has
years
released on
later.
PC. It has a number of issues. It's playable, especially seeing as Brett is enjoying it fine. But there's a number of problems on at least certain people's PCs, so it is
Stuttering.
buyer beware right now. Bad stuttering,
is the
frame timing
biggest-
that's awful.
Mhm.
I'd highly recommend anyone interested in picking it up to watch the Digital Foundry video on the PC performance, because it goes into detail about everything that is currently not working well.
In my opinion, Digital Foundry is the like end all be all when it comes to like console or PC
Yeah,
performance.
Because
Because
they
to
test
say that
everything.
to say that they are thorough is an understatement. They test things. They throw out all sorts of terms that before I started watching them, I had no idea what they were. Like they are, they go into detail. I think
Yeah.
is like the most passive way to put it.
Especially about stuff like frame pacing, which a lot of companies don't talk about frame pacing, which is where like the frame rate doesn't drop, but the game will stutter and look bad for some reason that nobody can ever pinpoint. It's because their frames aren't happening on the right refresh rate. So
They also test things on a really wide range of hardware. Like
Yeah.
they have a lot of different setups for a lot of different stuff. So
it is sad to see though that 7 Remake is a really, really good Final Fantasy game, considering that we have
Yeah.
not had any good Final Fantasy games in like the last 5 years aside from the MMO. So
you give it all the accolades, Ryan. You can't skip the accolades.
well, we're gonna get to the accolades. We're gonna
We
get
have
to
too
14. We
many
got some
accolades.
14 stuff to
Perhaps
talk about.
The biggest amount of praise you could give a game is what we're going to talk about soon. Weirdly
So yeah,
enough.
the 7 Remake not doing too hot on PC. Hopefully it gets ironed out. Same thing happened when Nier came out on PC. The Nier Automata, not Replicant, was pretty fine, I think.
Square Enix ports
Automata had
always-
issues.
have always been rough.
Well, because they do the thing where they put the game on PC, then complain that it doesn't sell well on PC, but they put it on PC broken, so no one bought it, right?
Yeah. We
They complain that no one buys it.
We put no effort into the port and we didn't get any money. What's going on here?
They do that. Well, there's
guys?
other developers. I think Bandai Namco said like they were stunned by the amount of PC sales they made this year. So
Why isn't the Dark Knight PC port
the
selling
Wyatt
well?
laughed so hard he vanished into the background.
I know, like audio had just popped out too as soon
Yeah.
as I disappeared.
So I definitely think this is a rough state for that game. I'm hoping it gets sorted out because 7 Remake is really, really good. Very entertaining.
It's up until the last hour, and then
Hey,
I had
if
no
you've
idea
played
what
the
was going on.
original, the last hour is still great.
That's great.
I hope
If you're someone who
it-
hasn't played 7, it's complete.
It's at
fucking
least
nonsense.
interesting.
It's
We're not gonna
complete
spoil it,
fucking
but
nonsense.
great job keeping to the age rating here, Wyatt.
Oh god,
Good job.
7
Oh,
Remake.
I'm so sorry.
Making you so angry. All right.
I'm
Um,
sorry. I'm
I actually noticed it that time.
So we don't talk about Ghost Recon very much on this show.
Oh,
Ghost
no.
Recon is getting NFTs.
Oh no!
Oh no.
Specifically Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which is already not a well-received game.
Of course they are.
Well, they're testing the waters. They don't want to put NFTs in a game that will elicit an actual emotion from people.
It's
We're
just so confusing.
diversifying the poop pile. We're adding different species of feces.
If
Wow.
Bethesda would do the same thing, they would do it to Fallout 76.
Yeah.
Oh
by
god.
comparison.
Yeah.
You know, at first I've been confusing and like crossing wires on a bunch of different games tonight. I thought you were talking about the Splinter Cell remake that's coming.
I mean, Ubisoft is responsible for that. This one, yeah, that's the other announcement. Splinter Cell's getting a remake that's in the progress. Happening again. It's nice to see. Love Splinter Cell.
Yeah.
And not
taken
anything to
them
talk
long
about
enough.
right now, though.
I love
taken
fishing
a
with
while.
my man Sam.
Yeah, Ghost Recon NFTs just don't make sense because especially people talk to other people in Ubisoft and they were just like, I don't know what's going on. So it seems like this is a very isolated team or something.
Who made this decision? I don't know.
Well, the idea, they're not even like exclusive items or something, which is the point of NFTs. It's just an item with a serial number, essentially, that'll show on your character. And I'm just like, I don't care.
No,
Wow.
I
yeah.
don't want
It's
that.
bottom of the bin for an NFT, which is like scraping underneath
Yeah.
the barrel.
Again, it's like it's the anti-buzzword. Why?
don't
Why
know. I
keep
don't
going
know.
for this? Yeah, it's very confusing. All right, so we're ready to talk about Final Fantasy 14.
Here we go.
It's an important question for us because Ryan is always available.
With
Ryan
I'm
is
always
It's
ready.
always ready.
now, is this also about its critically acclaimed free trial, including?
Well, there is no critically acclaimed free trial.
It's gone.
You cannot play the award-winning expansion Heaven's Ward. It does not include up to level 60. It is not free to play. Eorzea
can't play
is
it.
full. Please go away.
It's full. Please go away.
So,
the vacancy sign for the game just turned off.
Final Fantasy 14 has had a wild month. Endwalker is by far the most popular expansion that they've ever released. They've hit player numbers that they did not think were possible. There are no servers. There's no additional servers because they have been trying for 2 years to upgrade the servers, and COVID happened. So they cannot get the parts to upgrade the servers. There is nothing they can do. So they have been updating blog posts with us like every 3 days of what's going on with the servers right now. There are queues of at least like 2,000 during every prime hour.
My
And they can be like an hour to 3 hours
God.
long. If you log on at the
boy.
peakest of times, they might be up to 5. I've never logged on then.
So what you're saying is it's as easy to get into this to play this game right now as it is to play It Takes Two when you have no friends.
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
You cannot play Final Fantasy 14 right now. If you the free trial gone, they have axed it. It's gonna come back, and if you already were signed up for it, you can still play, but no new things are happening. They have pulled it from sale everywhere. You can still buy Endwalker on its own if you already own Final Fantasy. If you do not own the base game, you cannot buy the base game. You can't buy the bundle that includes the base game and Endwalker. Nothing. You can't buy it. You cannot even pay to play this game right now. They're giving free sub time to every person that is subscribed to the game because they cannot play the game during their time right now because of the queues. So, I mean, they're handling this situation the best they can. And they're very communicative about the issues that are happening. It is wild to me that the game has had this much of a boost in popularity
Yeah.
where this is what's happened. They have pulled... They're not even doing advertising campaigns anymore.
They tried to pull as many ads. Weren't there some ads that they said they couldn't pull?
Yeah, there's some
Or-
stuff like, obviously, if you've paid already for like an advertisement in the subway or something, you can't pull that last minute. But they have pulled basically every digital ad. They've pulled all the launch campaigns for Endwalker that were like advertising the game. And I really want to know what's going to happen in a week because the next patch is about to arrive.
Oh, God.
We're about to get the
Oh,
point
no.
the 0.1 or the 0.5 patch, which is adding in the raid series and a bunch of crazy exciting stuff that people are going to come back for.
The raid?
Oh, no.
Yeah, this is they release the way Final Fantasy 14 expansions work is they release as a 0.0 patch, so this is 6.0, and that has all the main story included, all the major content for that. We don't get the raids yet, so the raids come out a couple weeks later after people have had time to get to max level and get ready for it, and then
Like
they
Destiny,
release
they're
like
good.
side content like Beast Tribes, which are like little weeklies and whatnot that you can do that are fun. So they start
The
releasing side
servers-
content.
See Ryan, this is the problem when
Yeah.
you plug a game as much as you do on our
When you
show.
plug a game so much that you can no longer.
And
Well,
you
look,
can no longer
hey,
plug it.
if any of you had listened to me when I was plugging it, you could be playing it. but we're full now.
Who would we want to?
Well, you should have wanted to earlier when I told you should want to. So this is your own fault.
Sorry that your game is too good.
It is
that
now
you
the
can't
forbidden
play
fruit
anymore, loser.
of video games. I can play it. You guys can't. I'm gonna have a great time. I think Alex can play it. He's got his free trial.
And he's not gonna stop recommending it either. By the way, we're still gonna have a drop for it every episode.
When the raids come out, the servers are going to flatline.
Well, the raids are probably not going to change that much because like most players don't do them, right? They are for like 30% of the player base is going to play the raids, which is a shame because they're always really good. But especially the Savage rating, people are not going to do that for the most part, right? Like those are dedicated people that are doing that. The bigger things I think is they are releasing new housing, which is going to get everyone to log back on because they want a house. They're releasing the Animal Crossing island type thing where you can have an island and like take care of animals and farm and whatnot. I'm sure that's going to be insanely popular whenever it releases.
Yeah.
So I don't see these queues going down very much at all for a while.
I'm going to go play Star Wars The Old Republic.
You say that I installed Guild Wars 2 to play it when I can't log into 14.
Republic. Not even Knights of the Old Republic.
MMO and your primary MMO is too good for you to
the Old
play
Republic
it.
has a really good storyline for every class.
Legitimately, I've been considering doing like a KOTOR or an Old Republic, like just big old playthrough.
Why? You know what we should do at some point? Do the Old Republic.
I could get past the movement and the controls.
I mean, it's old tab target MMO, but why? We should do a night one time where we just both play the Old Republic and go through storylines with each other. That'd be fun.
That'd be fun.
Start level 1 characters and just try it.
Because I never finished KOTOR. I've never played KOTOR 2, so I'd love to do like what I did with Dragon Age and Mass Effect and just plow through them. Like that would be.
They're great games.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, the Old Republic. Hey, if you can't play 14, go play Star Wars: The Old Republic and just play the storylines. They're good.
Weirdly enough, there's other MMOs exist that are pretty.
Well,
good.
Not many.
Most
of them are pretty bad right now.
I hear Guild Wars 2 is still in a fairly
Guild Wars
decent
2 is doing a decent bit.
What other MMOs are there?
New World is like
so much about
New World is dead already.
You've talked so much about 14. Any other MMO has been
because 14 is the only one that's doing particularly well right now.
I hear ESO is still pretty healthy in terms of
ESO is always going to have a player base because of Elder Scrolls fans, right? Like that game doesn't actually need to be particularly competitive for MMOs because it's going to have Elder Scrolls
game though.
I mean, but it's a decent comparison if you just want to play some quests. It's got good quests.
Probably of all the MMOs that I've seen, it's probably the one that I would most likely get into because it has more like real-time combat than it's not as like reliant on like tapped attacks and stuff as other ones.
Yeah,
so
ESO and Guild Wars 2 have interesting combat. Although ESO has also in the last few weeks had an issue with combat where they've made some weird balancing decisions. So playing high level in ESO now requires a ton of animation canceling and weird techniques that are not accessible for your average player.
Fighting game.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh god,
it's absolutely insane.
To slide cancel into Dagoth
Dude, well, you have slide canceling is in Final Fantasy 14. That is a thing.
Oh my god.
You don't have to do it. But ESO is like they've designed a lot of the new content very strictly so that you have to do the crazy DPS things of getting your animation cancels right, which is just not very fun. So yeah, MMOs are in a weird place right now. The only ones I can really recommend are Guild Wars 2 and I don't know, SWTOR, Star Wars: The Old Republic. Go play that.
You can't officially recommend 14 because
get out. Stop playing 14 because I want to play it.
Get out of here! Get off
my lawn.
That I do not want you to play.
I'm gonna have fun going and traveling the world with my scions. You guys can go do whatever you want. All right, bye.
I don't even know what Unscion is.
And it's your party. It's your party. They're your buds.
Have fun on that big ball made of cheese.
So you mean your fire team?
Yeah, it's your squad. It is your fire team. Yeah, it's a rough situation. I don't know when this is going to be resolved. They've said that the earliest estimate they have for when they can give a roadmap for new servers is January.
I do want to say the expansion being called Endwalker in this case is quite fitting.
It's really funny.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Play the game.
Well, 'cause it's been interesting because the other expansions had pretty good launches. The only time that 14 had a bad launch, aside from like the obvious original launch, which was horrible, was when they did Realm Reborn, the first like the remake of it. That also had a sketchy launch, and they had to stop selling the game as well because it was too popular. So
How much?
Yeah,
How
but
much
because
of
it
the
was too
games like
popular. not
surge?
because of-
How much of the games like surge in popularity do you think can be attributed to the one, the only Asmongold? That's my
I
question.
wonder because I think Asmongold.
He's still
It's
playing?
less Asmongold himself and more that Asmongold started a mass exodus of World of Warcraft to where like every major World of Warcraft content creator has pretty much left that game and gone to 14.
Is
It's
he
not
still
just
playing in
Asmongold now;
14?
it's everyone. Yeah, Asmongold's still playing.
Sorry, is who playing,
Nice.
Alex? Who are we talking about?
Is Asmongold still
There
playing
we
the
go.
critically acclaimed Final Fantasy
almighty.
XIV with the free
No,
trial?
No, there is no
No,
free
you-
trial.
That is-
It's gone.
That is no longer available.
You cannot play the critically acclaimed expansion, Heaven's Word. Yeah, it's everyone's been enjoying it that has access to it, but yeah, no one else. All right, so we've managed to get through the majority of the old school news. Now we have the interesting rumor bit of Mass Effect 5. We've gotten the heavy rumors now that it's going to be using Unreal 5 and not proprietary engines, which is
Ooh.
Finally.
Best.
Probably good, yeah. Compared to
Finally.
Frostbite, jeez.
Yep.
Oof.
I just want BioWare to have some success again. Just
For
I don't
once.
want them to fail, but they keep failing.
They've been really
Love
good at it
BioWare.
recently.
I love BioWare. I love
They have it down to a
what
science.
they've done for us in the past. I just, they just don't do that anymore.
No.
Hey Wyatt, remember when you were talking about how it's weird that the PS5 doesn't have skins and all the things that it looked like it was going to get? They're
Well,
getting them.
no.
They're coming
I don't
out.
want to talk about this.
Well,
I
it
don't wanna
does
talk
now, and they're all basic, boring colors.
I
don't
mean,
wanna
well, they have like a bright red one and a purple one. I like
That-
those. Those are pretty good.
that
See,
people
I
who
don't
are
want
not
to talk about
PlayStation
this.
have made so many better versions.
I don't want to talk about this because Sony have been, well, I should say PlayStation and I guess also Sony have been absolute dickheads to anyone trying to make side panels for the PS5.
I mean, yeah,
And I
it
should-
does make sense why
it-
they were trying to sue people now.
I mean, not that it's justified in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form, because I feel like having a bustling like customization community for your console is only a good thing.
It would be like if Skyrim didn't allow people to mod.
Now, I think
Maybe
the
if Todd
confusing
Howard-
thing.
Went to the house of every modder and shot them in the head, point blank.
Wow, that's a violent image. Someone's out for blood today. I think
Howard
that
has
the
had
really
enough.
curious thing about this, they're not out in time for holidays,
Nope.
but they're coming out like 2 weeks after. So I have to wonder if there was some production delays or something because
This also feels really late for something like
yeah,
this.
it's been
Oh, yeah.
over a year.
It's absolutely too little too late.
You guys have waited so long that you've had to sue multiple websites. So that
It's like
they
these
wouldn't sell
these should
their
have
own.
been ready at the most like a month after the consoles came out, right?
Ideally,
Yeah.
this should have been ready when the
Yeah, it should have been an option when the console came out, but now you have this whole issue of you can't sell these because, well, people have beat you to the punch.
Well,
So-
and the best part is, even though they and we've talked about this in a previous episode, even though they just completely just sued Dbrand, Dbrand came back not only with more dark plates, but in
Yeah.
my opinion, a design of the
Looks
of
better.
the side plates that looks significantly better.
It is a
than
little
the-
bit more expensive, but it does
the,
look better.
than the Italian mafia like V
Popped collar.
popped collar.
Yep.
Ugh.
Although I do have one other interesting thing happened with my PS5 a little while ago. My stick is drifting on my controller.
Oh, no.
Really?
So
Oh,
I now have a
no.
PS5 controller drift far worse than I've never had a Nintendo Joy-Con drift.
either.
So
Part of
the
that is
lack
probably
of
that I don't
support
use the Joy-Cons all that
begins.
much. I usually use it per controller, but my PS5 controller has started drifting, and because there is no dead zone control in the PS5, I cannot fix it.
Oh.
So I'm gonna have to go through the repurposing whatever program they have, the warranty, and send it back into Sony to get one of my controller fixed. Luckily, the PS5 thing I got had two, so I have a spare one. But it is weird that the controller I got is already drifting.
Yeah.
I haven't had
It's
any
weird
thumbstick drift, but what I have had is the a lot of the different like rumble motors are like sound like, you know how they're supposed to sound at this point, right?
Yeah,
They
they're
don't
just really
sound right.
loud.
They sound really loud. They sound broken. Like it's
Oh.
really weird.
Yeah.
It feels like the whole thing is about to just crumble. It's about to just be Thanos snapped out of existence
no.
any second.
Wyatt,
like-
I don't feel so good.
I wonder if they like vibrated themselves out of like normal position or something, just from the amount of weird stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
They-
I mean,
they
the other
hear
problem
our
is that, like,
frequency.
these controllers are not easy to open, and you can't open them up without breaking the warranty. So on a normal
Yeah.
controller with a stick drift issue, usually you can open it up and just move the stick a little bit, and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
With this one, if I risk opening it up, then I can't use the warranty. So I'm like, I'm just going to warranty it. But it means it's a painful process. So
I'm surprised they don't have like dead zone control just like
On a
built
console
into
level.
the console.
because I think the
'Cause, yeah.
PS4 does, doesn't it?
The PS4, I know the Xbox One does because I've done it before. It's like, I don't know, it's a weird, that is a weird hardware
Yeah.
limitation
many-
to have.
See, it's not a
I can't
huge
speak
issue
as to-
in most
can't speak
games.
as- I can't speak as to whether like the Series X has this issue, but there's a lot of aspects of the PS5 where it's like, yeah, this wasn't ready to come out when it did.
Especially the accessories and whatnot. The PS5 itself works pretty well, but it's just like the OS and the like UI are a little bit underbaked. They feel very streamlined in a way that seems like they were designed for a tech demo and not actual use. But it's been a year,
Yeah.
so I don't think they're gonna
For-
update it.
Well, and it's
First-
also it's bizarre because the PS5 is probably like has a lot of potential in terms of like customization because of those side panels.
Well, the
And so
PS4
it's just
did,
weird
right?
that they're capitalizing on it now. of all
Because the
things.
people
But
would
I'd
make
say-
PS4 panels, even though the PS4 didn't have one. So of course people would be having a burgeoning customization industry, but nope.
For someone who struggles as much with troubleshooting as I do, what is dead zone shifting? Dead zone
So,
control? What is
Most controllers have a dead zone, which is where the stick moving like a minute amount in any direction won't make it start moving, right? In the game.
okay.
So what I would like to do is make the dead zone a little bit bigger, right? So I need to move the stick just a little bit more, because if it's just like a minor dead zone issue, because the thing is, it isn't happening all the time. It goes on and off, but the problem is that I play a lot of JRPGs and games with turn-based menus, and when the stick starts going just constantly up,
Oh,
even just a
dear.
little
Oh,
bit,
yeah.
I can't
Oh,
select
no.
anything, right? Like, it's unplayable. If I play a game like Assassin's Creed or something, it's fine, because, it just makes you move up a tiny bit. But in a game like in a game like Final Fantasy or something, when I'm trying to move menu, it's just screaming, going all over the screen. I'm like, what do I do?
Whoops, I pressed the wrong ability. My entire
Game
team is dead.
Fighting me.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah, I do get worried because it happened one time when I was opening the menu of a game, and it almost like made it hover over the delete your save button. I was like, don't do that. So I just turned the controller off and plugged in my other one. But yeah, it's a shame. So yeah,
You have to Psycho Mantis it.
I wish they were slightly better build quality because they have very nice controllers, but it's just sad.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Returnal having a good year as well, except for the fact that it's among the least finished games of the year.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh.
So I did want to talk about
yeah.
this because I think
Oh.
Wyatt, you finished Returnal, right?
I did. I am part of the I'm part of the 10% of gamers who have actually finished the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think
weirdly
normal
feel
completion
kinda
rates are around
proud
like
of it.
30% usually. Is
Yeah.
the usual rate for completing a game is like 30% of the people that buy it complete it.
really?
Yeah, it's not high. And which makes sense because like people, if you play 30 hours of a game, it doesn't matter if you complete it. You've gotten your money's worth at that point, right?
Yeah.
I think plenty of people would rather just continue playing other games, especially in the
Everyone
case
has
of
their-
like. Go ahead.
Everyone has their natural stopping point when it
Yeah.
comes to a
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
like depending on the genre.
I think Returnal just has the problem of it is some bits of that game are so hard and have
Very
no way to
difficult,
tune the
yeah.
difficulty.
I do wonder too, because I'm not going to spoil anything, but the last objective you have to do to really finish the game can feel a bit like, why am
I
I
remember you
doing
telling me
this?
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Brett, you did it as well, or
I
at least you
didn't
know
make it
what
that
I'm
far. I was
talking about.
watching a friend. Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about,
And
and so that last like step you have to make, again without spoiling it, it makes you go kind of through the whole game a second time, sort of. Again, without
Well, which is
giving
what
away
most
story
roguelikes do,
spoilers.
right? But
Right,
Returnal has
but
the
I feel
problem of
like
its runs in Returnal are like 3 to 4 hours long.
they
and
can
they're
be
grueling.
really,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
long.
Oh.
Yeah, they can, and
And
I
it's
feel like
constant
I
things
haven't.
happening. There's no
I'm starting.
cooldown period.
Yeah, I'm starting to get into roguelikes more. I'm still not super familiar with them, but at least in my experience, the success rate, like the run, like it can either be like pretty smooth or just even in the first area, like it just kicks you in the dirt and doesn't
Yeah.
let you
Yeah.
get back
It's
up.
also
Like it's
usually most
well-
roguelikes that require you to complete them a ton have short runs or have a lot of narrative across multiple runs, like Hades. Because like I think the game that requires the most amount of completions probably is Binding of Isaac, which is why I think Returnal did it, because Returnal copies a lot of Binding of Isaac mechanics, which isn't inherently a bad thing, because Isaac is really, really good roguelike, but it's the kind of roguelike that is very intentionally designed, and everything that's there is there for a reason. And if you just take things from that and put them in a different game, like Returnal is a game that, again, the parasites still just don't work, right? They're never enticing to take.
Yeah.
Unless you happen to get lucky and just have one that doesn't affect you. So I think it has a problem of just, it's so hard to increase the player's power in a way that feels good for a roguelike. Whereas even like Hades, which doesn't have insane combos the way Isaac does, still has some really cool potential synergies you can get. And Returnal just doesn't have that. It
Well, the
lacks
other
that.
issue, and this is a personal thing, but the other issue with Returnal is that there were maybe one or two guns that I thought were actually like
I agree. Yeah.
effective. Like they're like
The
some of
shotgun
the
was
guns had
useless across most of
shotgun
the
was
game.
useless.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like, okay, as soon as I pick up a Hollow Seeker, it doesn't matter what other, like, even if the gun I have is like significantly better, I'm gonna pick up the Hollow Seeker, which is like the long, like light machine gun type of thing, because it's by far the best weapon in the game. Even if you have a significantly weaker Hollow Seeker, you're still gonna
Yeah.
want it. And so it's just kind of like, oh, you're using the assault rifle, whatever that was called, thing, or the
The
Hollow Seeker
carbine or
the whole
the
game.
Hollow Seeker. And like, which is crazy because I love the grenade launcher and stuff like that. I think they were really fun to use, but they just were not good for most of the enemies in the game.
They
So,
weren't reliable enough. Like you want
Yeah.
something that can fit any
You need something
situation you're
versatile
going to be in.
when
Yeah.
you're in a roguelike and you only have one weapon, I feel like they needed some way to swap weapons or something and carry like 2 or 3.
I was just about to say that. It's like if you had made a if you made some sort of distinguishing between like regular weapons and power weapons, right?
Yeah.
So like the grenade launcher thing is a power weapon, but it's a little bit harder to use. But the payoff for it is really great. Whereas the Hollow Seeker is like that's gonna do you in any situation. Maybe not the best in every situation, but it's very adaptable.
I wonder what is the how have there been like a lot of like updates or like patches for
It's
for
had
Eternal, or
a
have they just kinda, like-
few, but nothing
one-
too major.
There was
I
one
wonder
update
if
that would save your save point if you had the PS5 in rest mode or something, which was an issue with the game at launch.
and this is
It would let
This
you
is not to
close
say
the
that
game and
the-
resume a run. Because before
Right.
that was a problem where you couldn't close the
That
game
makes
and resume a
sense.
run.
Oh.
and this is not to say like the game is like super buggy and needs fixes now and it's atrocious that they
no.
haven't, but I wonder if it's like because it seems, I mean,
It feels like a
maybe
lot of
not
the
with-
problems have fixes that are pretty easy to do, or at
it's-
least like
yeah.
easy to think of. Maybe not as
I
easy to
was-
implement, but
I was gonna say maybe they have something in the works, but it might not clash with the story very well. Like similar to Tsushima, where it's just like, okay, you get this one big DLC thing for the people that don't want to buy it. This comes with all the updates and fixes that you could possibly want to the game, and optimizes this or whatever. The menus are
like
better. This
filling
changes.
holes, basically.
It's yeah. I wonder if they're gonna end up doing something like that. And what because
Be
I
interesting.
don't know too much about the like support of Returnal.
my bet is probably that Housemarque has moved on. Would be
That
my
would make
main
sense.
assumption. I feel like they're
Doesn't
not a
need a
studio
lot
that
of
sticks on it too
support.
long.
It doesn't need a lot of support. You know,
It is just
Like,
a game that felt like it was maybe tuned to be a little bit too hardcore for the audience that was playing it, because it has like a lot of story elements that are very interesting, but it's so grueling to get through some of it.
Yeah.
There were moments where like a cutscene would start or like a part of the story. So I was like, oh yeah, this game had a story. I kind of
Yeah.
forgot because I just played 4 or 5 hours trying to get through a run
Yeah.
with no story going on. So
Another big problem is that I think, like me, I think a lot of people who've played a lot of roguelikes had the opposite issue of the people that are having an issue with the difficulty, where instead of being upset at the difficulty, I was just like, there are better roguelikes I could be playing right now. Where I was like, oh, I'll just go play One Step from Eden, or I'll just go play Hades again, and have a more enjoyable time.
And the difficulty would be easier to swallow if it wasn't so long. Like,
yeah, it's very
really
long.
difficult for a really long run, and
you see so much of the same environments. Like that's always a thing with like Isaac and Hades too. Is you sometimes have alternate environments you can go through.
Hades has a really good like difficulty curve. I feel like it starts off pretty basic and then it gets more complex as it goes along.
Yeah,
and it gets slightly harder as it goes along. This game is like starts at an 11 and it just gets progressively worse as it goes along. It starts like full throttle and just doesn't let up for the entire game, and it gets exhausting.
And you set yourself up for failure if you don't redo every bit of the run every time you restart, even though they give you the option to skip it because you need the items. Like you
for
feel
Returnal
so
or Hades?
for Returnal.
Returnal.
You feel so weak without all the extra items you would get from doing that it's hard to justify just skipping ahead.
You have to be thorough with each run. There's not parts of it you can skip.
Yeah. It's just I think this all led to that low completion percentage.
Which and to cap it off too, we're not saying it's a bad game. I
think both of us really liked it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the kind of game that I don't feel the drive to complete, because I had like 30 hours of fun with Returnal. I'm just like, I have other games I want to play. I don't feel a burning desire to complete it.
For me, I was like, I'm starting to feel like I'm getting into a groove that I was really enjoying with it, and I did want to see where the story ended because I had so many questions.
You also beat it when there weren't that many PS5 games out, so
no, it was I mean, it was pretty new. It wasn't a launch title, but it was pretty close to launch.
Yeah, because I wasn't able to get my PS5 until a lot later, so I had a lot more options to choose from by the time I was playing Returnal, which I think didn't make it look worse in comparison, but there were more games that I hadn't played and wanted to play.
It's a good PS5 game to show off like
the tech.
The tech, and especially the sound. The sound
and the rumble. Returnal still has amazing
the rumble and the sound.
Well, and the way it used like it's adaptive triggers too was really interesting. Where it had alt fire modes if you pulled all the way down versus just like halfway. I didn't think I was gonna like that,
and it worked really well.
It ended up it worked surprisingly well.
Yeah. All right.
Spoiler for if such when we do the Halo episode that the.
You're right, Alex?
I completely lost my train of thought.
You knew what he said was going to be immediately rebuked by everyone else on the call, and then stopped saying it.
No, God, there was something that you were talking about that reminded me of. It was something having to do with the update that made me no longer be able to play Halo Infinite was like, okay, this is a good excuse not to play it anymore. But I can't remember what that was at all now.
Well, I hope you do remember what the next thing is, because it's shoutouts.
Oh my God.
The time. We've been going an hour and 50 minutes. I told you we had a lot to talk about of interesting things that happened. So, who's ready to go? Who's got a shout out prepared? All right, well, this is me then. So Alex has been mentioning Origami 2 a few times over the past couple podcasts, and that got me interested again in going back and finishing the older Origami, which the first game was this low-budget indie game. It's like a stealth action game from 2014, 2015. It's a great game. Very good. Janky. It is definitely janky. You can tell it's a low-budget indie game, but it has so many cool ideas, and it's such a well-balanced stealth game that I think it's a very, very fun thing to go through. It's also available super cheap all the time because it's very old at this point. Great game.
I got one. I'm ready to go. Shout out to the game Reigns, specifically the iOS version or the mobile version. Because it's basically an entire like kingdom building game through the lens of Tinder. or like dating apps where you're basically just swiping left and right on your like advisors,
It is really
suggestions or
good.
whatever. And
Oh,
and
yeah.
it took me a long time because I was playing. I was like, I'm having a lot of fun with this, and then I realized, oh yeah, you're basically just swiping left and right like on Tinder, and that's how you interact with it. That's kind of genius, actually.
I love trying to keep those meters balanced. It's been a while
Yeah.
since I played it.
It's really fun, and it's a great mobile game because as I've been going to class, sometimes I get there early, and so we're like waiting for the last couple students to get in, or we're waiting for the professor. So I'll just like do a
Good
couple
mobile
of
game.
do a couple of runs. Yeah, it's a perfect mobile game.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
All right, who's next? Who's got someone?
I have a man. I have a boy.
You have a boy?
Oh boy,
I have.
no one can comprehend him.
I have him. Oh God!
That was the little
me, not
There he
him.
is. He's showing up.
Does it look a little like cup, like a?
Yeah.
Well, turtle
I
cup.
currently have oh God, pens that you can't see, and a tiny satchel full of Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Nice.
him.
Impressive.
He looks so happy.
All right, Brett, you've had your time to think.
My shout out goes to specifically the second of 2 discs of Wild Arms 2, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm like 20 something hours into this game, and after the first disc was done, I was like, this is like pretty boring. I don't know why I'm playing this game. And then the second disc started, and I was like, this is really good all of a sudden. No wonder people like this game. Okay, there's like 4 hours of game left at this point. I guess I'll deal with it.
Might as well finish
Aw.
it. All right, with that,
Ending
we've
strong.
finished the episode. As always, Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Time on the podcast platform of your choice. We have some fun stuff coming up still. We have the Game Pass Games Club is coming out real soon. We had to figure out a bunch of scheduling things with that, but it's happening. And then we're going to have more fun Halo stuff at some point to talk about as soon as we finish the
soon.
campaign.
God, I
Gotta-
hope so.
I gotta
let's
sit
go,
down and
right?
play
No,
it.
I'm just kidding.
Maybe.
It's fun. It just takes a while.
Yeah.
We will see you next week.
Oh boy.
Wipe that smile off your
No.
face, Wyatt.
I'd like to thank 4 copies of the John Discord plushie for joining us this podcast.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
Over there.
We will never do these backgrounds ever again.
Oh, absolutely.
This was the worst. This was